Hello, I'm James Ezimoha and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. Islamabad becomes stage for US-Iran dialogue. In Hungary, Orban faces toughest election challenge in years. And a Russian drone strike in Odessa kills 2, injures 1. All eyes are on Islamabad, where Pakistani government sources have told A News that direct talks between Iran and the US are underway behind closed doors. Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
Pakistani sources say trilateral talks between the United States and Iran are now underway, with the discussions expected to continue into Sunday as well. Officials in the capital remain tight-lipped, not sharing too many details about the closed-door negotiations. The U.S. side is being led by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, and he's accompanied by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The Iranian delegation is led by the Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Ghalibaf. He's also accompanied by Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The day saw intense diplomatic activity in Islamabad, with Pakistani leadership holding separate meetings with both the American and Iranian delegations first. According to officials, Islamabad has been working at the highest level to bridge differences and create space for direct engagement. Authorities describe it as a relentless effort, with the hope that this fragile pause in hostilities could be turned into something more lasting. Analysts say expectations are high, with many in the capital hoping Pakistan can help deliver a durable outcome. Key sticking points remain. A big one is whether or not Lebanon is included in the ceasefire. Pakistan and Iran insist it is. Israel and the US say it is now. Iran wants billions of dollars of Iranian assets unfrozen, war reparations, and it doesn't want to give up its biggest point of leverage, access and control over the Strait of Hormuz. The US wants Tehran to give up its stockpile of enriched uranium and commit to never making a nuclear weapon. And also free movement of ships carrying oil, fertilizers and gas through the Strait of Hormuz. But the challenge ahead remains significant. The Pakistani Prime Minister has described these talks as a make-or-break moment, acknowledging that securing lasting peace will be an uphill battle. Hira Mustafa for A News, Islamabad.
Staying in Islamabad as high-stakes negotiations continue between the United States and Iran, security remains tight across the capital as both sides engage in what could become the most significant diplomatic contact in decades.
Pakistan has tightened security in Islamabad as it hosts high-stakes US-Iran talks since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, aimed at extending a fragile ceasefire and easing tensions across the Middle East. Thousands of police and military personnel have been deployed across Islamabad and neighboring Rawalpindi, with checkpoints set up at key intersections. Authorities have sealed off the area around the Serena Hotel, the venue for the talks, placing it under government control, clearing guests, and enforcing a 3-kilometer security perimeter. The talks are being held behind closed doors, with Pakistan positioning itself as a mediator. Officials say discussions are focused on extending the current 2-week ceasefire and reducing regional tensions. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has described the meeting as a make-or-break moment for diplomacy.
A temporary ceasefire has been announced, but now the even more difficult stage is that of a permanent ceasefire, that is, resolving the entangled issues through negotiations, and this stage is parallel to what is called make or break in English. Tomorrow, the leadership of both countries will be present in Islamabad, God willing, and the Pakistani leadership will make every effort with sincerity to make these talks successful.
Make or break.
Both delegations have now arrived in the Pakistani capital. The US delegation, led by Vice President J.D. Vance and including Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The Iranian delegation, led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakr Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, arrived earlier and has already held meetings with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Iranian officials say they have outlined key conditions ahead of any direct negotiations.
A ceasefire, a halt to the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, has been part of the ceasefire deal. This is not only what we have said or claimed, the Pakistani mediator has also explicitly stated this. This has been our demand, and in recent days, this issue has been raised very clearly. Since yesterday, when we arrived here, communication between Islamabad and Beirut has been ongoing. We are in contact with our ambassador in Beirut, who continuously reports to us and to the relevant authorities in Lebanon to ensure that the commitments made regarding the ceasefire are implemented on all fronts.
Despite the diplomatic push, major differences remain between the two sides. Washington is pressing Iran to curb its nuclear program, missile development, and regional alliances, warning that military action remains an option if talks fail. US President Donald Trump criticized media coverage of the conflict, saying reports that Iran is winning are inaccurate. He claimed Iran has suffered major military losses, including damage to its air defenses, missile systems, and naval capabilities. Trump also said US forces are working to clear the Strait of Hormuz, describing it as a service to global trade. He added that oil shipments are increasingly being redirected to the United States as tensions continue to disrupt regional supply routes. The talks are taking place during a 2-week ceasefire announced earlier this week, following more than a month of US-Israeli strikes on Iran.
Staying in the region, Lebanon and Israel have agreed to hold an initial meeting next Tuesday in Washington as both sides move toward potential ceasefire negotiations. According to the Lebanese presidency, the talks will take place at the U.S. State Department and are expected to focus on formalizing a ceasefire and setting a timeline for further negotiations. The development follows direct contact between the Lebanese and Israeli ambassadors to the United States, with U.S. officials facilitating the process. Tensions have escalated sharply in recent days. Israel, however, maintains that the current U.S.-Iran ceasefire does not apply to the conflict in Lebanon, leaving the situation highly volatile. A Russian drone strike on the southern Ukrainian city of Odessa has killed 2 people and injured 1, according to regional officials. Authorities say a private home was hit, sparking a fire. Other strikes damaged residential and infrastructure sites across the city. The attack comes ahead of an Easter ceasefire set to run from Saturday afternoon to late Sunday, with Kyiv warning it will respond to any violations. Ukraine says it carried out overnight strikes on 2 Russian offshore drilling platforms in the Caspian Sea, targeting sites it claims supports Moscow's military logistics. Kyiv identified the platforms as ice-resistant facilities at the Valery Greifer and Yuri Kochagin fields, located about 1,000 kilometers from the front line. Russia said it shot down 9 Ukrainian drones over the Caspian Sea. The claims have not been independently verified. Hungary is heading into what could be a historic election as Prime Minister Viktor Orban faces his strongest challenge in 16 years from opposition leader Peter Magyar. Our correspondent Pablo Gutierrez reports from Budapest.
Hungary is heading into the final hours of a political campaign that could be a defining election after 16 years of rule by Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Now, both sides are pushing to the very last minute, trying to mobilize voters before polls open on Sunday. Across the country, rallies have continued late into the campaign, with Orban warning that this vote is about security and national interest. He has framed the election as a choice about keeping Hungary out of a war, telling voters he's seeking a mandate to keep the country out of a wider European conflict. Orban has also drawn support from parts of Europe's far right and from the administration of Donald Trump, with allies praising his stance on migration, sovereignty, and national identity. He's widely seen as aligned with both Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. a position that has strained Hungary's ties with the European Union. His challenger, Peter Magyar, has taken a different approach. In the final stretch, Magyar has been campaigning across several cities in a single day, moving from rally to rally as he tries to turn strong polling into votes. He has focused on the economy, healthcare, and education, and has told supporters that Hungary must fix public services and unlock economic opportunities tied to better relations with Europe, arguing the country cannot move forward on its current path. According to many analysts, Magyar is seen as someone who could reset Hungary's relationship with the European Union and ease tensions with Brussels. In essence, Magyar is offering change and reform, while Orban is warning that change could bring instability and weaken Hungary's position. Now, the intensity of this final push reflects how close and high stakes this race has become. Most independent polls indicate Magyar holds a double-digit lead. This election is widely seen as a choice between continuity and change. Voters are focused on rising costs, public services, and Hungary's place in Europe. Turnout could reach close to 80%, according to some analysts, one of the highest in Hungary's history, which could prove decisive in such a close race. Now, after months of campaigning, it now comes down to these final hours, a country preparing to decide not just who leads, but what direction it takes next. Pablo Gutierrez for A News, Budapest, Hungary.
Orthodox Christian worshippers celebrated the Holy Fire ceremony on Saturday, illuminating Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Vault with candles. The Holy Fire is considered a miracle that occurs every year on Holy Saturday, the day preceding Orthodox Easter Sunday. Jerusalem Greek Orthodox Patriarch entered the tomb where Christians believe Jesus was buried and emerged carrying a lit candle. The flame was then passed around the church and to local Christians and foreign pilgrims waiting in the narrow streets nearby. A fragile ceasefire in the Middle East is under strain as a high-stakes U.S.-Iran talks begin in Pakistan. Joining us to analyze these latest developments is Asif Tanvir Awan, international law expert from Muslim Institute, joining us from Islamabad, Pakistan. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you. Now, both sides say they have achieved some sort of victory. How does that shape the balance going into the negotiations?
Sir, when both the sides are claiming victory, one fact is very much evident that both the parties are showing satisfaction in the process which is going on. And secondly, it is a win-win situation for everyone because war favors no one and it is not the solution. And it was a very crucial time when Pakistan played its important role because only 90 minutes were remaining when the deadline was about to consume regarding the threat of US to demolish the entire Iranian civilization. So it was a time when Pakistan played its role. And after 47 years, you know very well that since for the very first time after 47 years, the Iran and America are sitting face to face on a table for the negotiations. And when on the one side, when it proves the positive and the strong diplomacy of Pakistan, at the second time, it also proves and it negates the false propaganda of India, which used to say since last 10 years that they have isolated Pakistan on the world. So it has been negated, and it was a false claim because I would say that please to India that please come out of daydreaming, see what the world is saying, see what the statement of United Nations Secretary General is there, what the German Chancellor is saying, what the Australian Prime Minister is saying. Everyone is praising the role of Pakistan because they are playing for the peace of the region, and not only the region but the world. So it is a very important time when these negotiations are going on in Islamabad.
Now, Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, expects a positive outcome. What are the realistic chances these talks in Pakistan deliver lasting progress?
Yes, everyone is hoping for the positive outcomes because everything is going with quite a careful way, and the process is going on from both the sides in a very serious and responsible way. Although there can be some things that some factors which do not want this peace, maybe they do something which can disrupt, God forbids, but we all are very much hopeful for the positive outcome of this peace process.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your time and insights with us.
Thank you, sir.
Now let's take a look at the major stories from the region. The 2026 Anatolian Phoenix International Search and Rescue Exercise is underway in Turkey's Konya with participation from Azerbaijan. According to the Defense Ministry, teams have been briefed on safety procedures, operational phases, and terrain conditions ahead of the drills. As part of the exercise scenario, units carried out a mission to locate and rescue a downed pilot. Airborne teams deployed by helicopter used fast rope techniques to enter the area, neutralize a simulated hostile group, and secure the site. Officials say the drills have demonstrated strong coordination and a high level of professionalism among participating forces. The exercise is set to continue until April 17th. The focus on regional reconciliation continues in Azerbaijan's Gebele, where civil society representatives from Azerbaijan and Armenia are holding face-to-face discussions under the Peace Bridge initiative. Now in its second day, the talks are shifting from opening dialogue to more practical steps aimed at building trust and supporting the broader normalization process. Nigar Shirnover reports from Gebele.
Discussions in Gebele are drawing to a close on the second day of the three-day Peace Bridge Initiative Roundtable, bringing together civil society representatives from Azerbaijan and Armenia. Following yesterday's opening sessions, today's talks focused on confidence-building measures and strengthening direct engagement between the two societies. Here at the roundtable, Assistant to the President of Azerbaijan, Hikmet Hajiev, met with participants of the fourth Peace Bridge meeting, holding an open dialogue with the Armenian delegation that lasted more than 2 hours. He also responded to questions from participants. In a recent statement, Hikmet Hajiev emphasized that track to diplomacy and confidence-building measures are inherently bilateral, reaffirming Azerbaijan's commitment to the peace agenda and the Washington framework. He highlighted practical steps, which include trade transits, shipments to Armenia, and people-to-people contacts as part of the economic dividends of peace. He also pointed to the potential of the TRIP project in creating new opportunities for Armenia as a transit country, while warning that revanchist rhetoric risks undermining regional stability, though he noted that societal support for peace offers grounds for optimism. Participants also reviewed progress under the Peace Bridge initiative, focusing on dialogue, and in a separate development, Azerbaijan has dispatched another 887 tons of diesel fuel to Armenia, bringing total diesel exports to 6,312 tons. Additional deliveries include 979 tons of AI-92 and 2,955 tons of AI-95 gasoline.
We see that the governments have already made some progress towards their talks, and there is more probably support and willingness to expand this discussion further. And therefore, I believe it's an important initiative at this particular stage. Even though in Armenia there were many people who are skeptical about civil society involvement in 1.5 track, because then it's not purely like civil society and so on. Because I have been pro-peace my entire life, I believe that it is very important to get involved in most of the initiatives that are really in support of peace and that help to expand and broaden both the number of people involved and the topics that could be discussed.
Of course, this process and showcasing that the Peace Track or Peace Bridge initiative is capable of bringing tangible human-centered results, like addressing maybe humanitarian issues on both sides, missing people, Armenian detainees in Baku, landmines. You also have the issue. I think that peace is highly humanistic concept, and whether we can sign it on paper, but then we have to also prepare the societies.
The second day is now concluding with the final day scheduled for tomorrow. That's all for now. Stay tuned to A News for the latest on-ground updates. Nigar Shirinova, A News, Gabala, Azerbaijan.
At the Peace Bridge discussions in Gebele, A News asked participants about the role of media in shaping public perception and supporting the peace process. One of the participants stressed the need to move away from divisive narratives, urging a greater focus on building trust between societies.
I think that maybe one of the most important things that the media can do is to create new narratives where there is no dehumanization of the other side, but more materials about the fact that these are people. And the less there are hateful media, the better this process will be, longer, and the more people will develop trust in the process itself and in what leads to peace. This, in my opinion, will be in a very concrete form. It is a collective effort, not forgetting the past. The point is not that we all remember the past, but that this past should not be in such a position of the past where there is only dehumanization of the other side.
Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has arrived in Uzbekistan for a working visit, where he was welcomed in Bukhara by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev. During the visit, the two presidents are expected to hold an informal meeting and visit a number of historical and industrial sites in the city. As the Anatolian Phoenix 2026 International Search and Rescue Exercise enters its final stages in Konya, we look at how these high-stakes drills are reshaping coordination among allied forces in a volatile regional climate. To help us unpack this is Associate Professor Dr. Zaur Gasimov, Turkish German University from Istanbul, Turkey. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, how significant are these joint drills for the region amid the ongoing crises?
Well, they are very, very significant for all participants. First of all, it's the issue of sustainability. It's not for the first time. It's actually an annual tradition. The last year, they were held also in Konya, in Turkey, in May, I guess. So now we have it in April this year. The participants a bit older, so we had, but the sustainability is an issue because the key members of NATO are present also in this year drills. So we have the United States of America among the participants, Turkish army itself. Turkey is the second strongest army in the alliance, and we have also Poland and Slovakia along with Azerbaijan.
Now, you just mentioned Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has deployed a full suite of aviation assets, technical staff, and forward air controllers to the Turkish-led drills. Does this level of integration suggest a permanent move toward a unified command structure between these neighboring states?
Of course, that is of paramount importance, particularly to the specific focus of this year drills. It's about rescue. That is an asset which is of importance for Azerbaijan, of course, that would give an opportunity for Azerbaijani military to get in touch not only with Turkish general staff and with Turkish specialists with whom they are in a stable dialogue, actually, but also to deepen the cooperation with United States and also with other partners in the alliance, like Poland, which plays also a significant role within the alliance.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a very important drill, as you mentioned. Will the data gathered here actually improve real-world response times, or is it primarily a display of regional military solidarity?
I wouldn't read that in geostrategic dimension with regard to the ongoing process in the Middle East now, because, as I've said, the key strong dimension of the NATO and of the Turkish military is sustainability. And these kind of drills are multinational drills. So it's not only open for NATO countries, but it's open for the countries which cooperate with the NATO members. So we have seen also Saudi Arabia and Qatar joining the drills last year. So that gives an additional platform for the military forces of the countries like Azerbaijan to get in touch, to deepen the cooperation with other members of the alliance and beyond, so with the countries which not belong to that. And as I've told, the focus of the drills this year are rescue exercises, so how to get the pilots out of a complicated situation which can take place in any kind of warfare, actually. And this gives also an additional framework, that takes place in Konya with its specific geographic conditions and circumstances. So that would be of great interest, especially for the militaries like Polish and Slovak one, but also for Azerbaijani military forces to operate, to learn how to interact with others and how to act in the given circumstances of a different geographical proximity of a different geographical area.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Gasimov, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.
Now, before we go, at the 4th Peace Bridge Initiative in Gebele, held from the 10th to the 12th of April, our Deputy Editor-in-Chief, Orhan Amashov, recorded a context special with an Armenian participant. During the conversation, they discussed the current peace process, economic engagement, and regional connectivity. Don't miss this special episode of Context on Tuesday. Now, let's take a look at some moments from it.
In terms of your analysis, bearing in mind the Armenian elections in early June and current sensibilities underpinning Azerbaijani-Armenian peace agenda, what is the key takeaway in terms of the impact of these people, the 40 participants, on the actual thing happening between the two countries?
I think it is great because we do not limit our meetings with Azerbaijani colleagues, but between the meetings with Azerbaijani colleagues, we are actively communicating representatives of our society, different layers. And that is why I think we are contributing to peace project, and we can judge that more and more understanding is among Armenian citizens about the importance of the process. And despite the fact that parliamentary elections in Armenia, they are more focused on internal political things, and I would say that there is certain slow approach by the decision makers to the peace project, because concentration, as I mentioned, on internal political issues. However, our format is still working, and working extensively, preparing ourselves for the post-election processes, where we expect not only consistency, but even speed up of the process. And as far as I know, in Azerbaijan the same is happening, and our colleagues, those 20, including yourself, are also communicating closely the different layers of Azerbaijani society, and it is important that the understanding is being spread. And we understand, of course, that the conservative approaches are very strong in our society. Cautiousness is present in our societies. So the change of minds of the people is happening not that fast as we would like, but still I am sure this is a consistent process, and we will gain more supporters in both countries to the peace process in general and to our initiative specifically.
All right, that's the news for this hour. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.